I just wanted to make a quick video. I've been really busy. Um, I want to talk about these recent Planned Parenthood shootings. Well, shooting, singular. Um, the problem with both the pro-life and the pro-choice is that they're arguing from a life perspective. In essence, they are both pro-life and pro-choice, but in different ways. And this false dichotomy is not going to get us anywhere. And more so the right wing than the left wing, because the right wing has a bigger shoe to fill in that they are claiming to know the Word of God, and they are wrong. They do not. You see, the Christian rights argument is that the right to life is more paramount than the right to choose an abortion to, help family, to help finances, whatever. Because that technically is a person even though it has no sapience. It doesn't even have a will to live yet. It's not even an insect yet. It is literally a clump of cells. But it will be a person. We know this for a fact that it will become a person. It won't become a centipede. It won't become, a cow. It'll become a person. So the potential is already there. We know it will emerge around 9 months. So it's preemptive murder. Well, the problem with this isn't the argument. The problem with this is that somehow God doesn't want us to kill. That's simply not the case. There is nowhere in the Bible that says murder is wrong, let alone even abortion is wrong. And abortion is a totally different issue than that of murdering your fellow human being. Now, some people bring up how the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments, said, "Thou shalt not murder." But you have to think back then we lived under a caste system. And the caste system had a very different definition of murder than we do today. So if you're not going to even take into consideration the culture back then I don't want to hear about what is and isn't right amongst the Bible. But what I will do is tell you a certain verse that I happen to be reading, and I will interpret this for you. 2 Chronicles 30:17. For there were many in the congregation that were not sanctified. Therefore the Lord had the charge of the killing of the Passovers. Passovers done by the Jews in the Old Testament. Um, well, you can just look it up yourself. It's really dark out here. The point is that you don't judge the Bible by those days. If you're going to use previous verses from even older days, it's just bad. It's bad argumentation, and I don't even care either which way people do it. I wouldn't be called the Christian nihilist if I gave that much a shit. But if you are going to argue these points, do it right. For God's sakes, fucking take out a book, any book, and form a cohesive argument. The main reason people are upset about this is because, two, what we assume to be innocent people died. But that's what the Bible was actually saying, that nobody is innocent. So you don't feel bad for their deaths. In fact, you don't feel bad for the unborn either because they're not innocent either. So, abortion's not wrong, murder's not wrong, whatever. And that's not an answer people want to hear because they want to assume innocence. They want to assume they're innocent. They want to assume their kids are innocent. They want to assume that the blue-eyed, beautiful, blonde-haired little girl is innocent, but nobody is innocent. That's why you need penance. That's why you need the Jesus Christ to die on the cross with the big holes in his hands. Yeah, because you are not innocent. And all these rituals, all these sacraments, all these explanations are ways to try to achieve innocence because deep down you know you don't deserve it. So, what is the difference between, you know, killing somebody that you know is not innocent via choice, via this emotional, politicized version versus a slightly different emotion, slightly different politicized version? In reality, both are the same thing. Both did what they did because they felt the choice outweighed the consequence. They felt that, that person's life was not an excusable enough force to come between them and their decision to do the right thing. Always about the right thing. Even the Bible does not say do the right thing. It says either follow the word of God or follow the word of the king. And in this case, that would be the state, which says that murder is pretty illegal, but abortion isn't. And even then, you can get away with murder on a lot of occasions. Look at George Zimmerman. He fucking killed an innocent black boy, and he's fucking posting selfies with his cigar in his mouth in the pool because he did it legally. Now, whether or not you think that's right, that's up for debate. I don't think it's right either. But the point is, he got away with it because he did it within the confines of the law. This guy thought he was doing it within the confines of God's law, but he wasn't. Because the Bible also expresses vividly that when people die under God's will, lots of people die. Not just a couple people here and there. It's not going to be some, limp orgasm. It's going to be big. It's going to be flashy because it wants to be miraculous. If it isn't miraculous, it is not a sign of God. That is what it specifically says. So, this was not a miracle. This was just some guy going into a building, shooting some other guy, maybe two guys. Ooh, that's why is that even newsworthy? That's not newsworthy. That's stupid. But more people die per day from shellfish than that. But it brings out the emotions within us because we feel bad for those people. Those people had lives they probably enjoyed. They had families. They had friends. They were possibly getting laid. God knows that's not a guarantee, but we assume that they had a pretty good life, and we don't like to see people lose that. That's the problem with the pro-life. They don't want to see the potential of a good life lost to future people. But yet they're fucking, Republicans and they're conservatives and they vote for all these laws that pretty much guarantee they'll have a pretty shitty life. I know. It's contradictory. I know it. You don't have to explain it to me. You don't have to vent to me. You both are full of shit. There. Doesn't everybody feel better? Liberals are full of shit. Conservatives are full of shit. We're full of shit for different reasons, but still full of shit. And the libertarians, they are mega full of shit. Because let's take the worst elements of both and cram it down into one very terrible ideology. But that's the American way. So, I don't even know what else to say here. I think I made a pretty good point. If I think the main thing I'm trying to get across is that if you're going to argue the Christian element, don't bring to the table pro-life or pro-choice or pro-anything. God is not pro-anything. God always says no. And you see that time after time after time if you actually study the Bible, if you study theology and things like that. And people get this misinterpretation that just because we are relevant to God's interests, that God cares about us. And that's two completely different things. You see it in your fellow human being, but God is not a human being. God is something alien almost. I want to say he's a space alien. Ooh, spooky. No, it's his idea. His being is alien to us. So we cannot fathom his idea of what even love or mercy is or anything like that. It's just completely different. So if it's completely different, this idea that God cares about us, that God wouldn't let these things happen, or God doesn't want these things to happen, it's insanity. There's no way to know that. And even if it did coincide with our own belief systems on some level, even all levels, it might be coincidental. It might purely be because of something else. There is no way that God is going to have the morality of man, and if it does have the same morality, it's for a completely different reason. A reason we cannot hope to explain, or maybe we can understand it, but it would be even more difficult to explain. I think that's really what I'm trying to get across here. And you could be upset about the circumstance. I'm perfectly fine with that. You're going to be upset about what you can be upset about anyway, but I'm not going to be upset about it.